Hi, it's Kara, um, curator of Thief of the Woods Apothecary. I live in the northeastern side of the country, in Ohio, bordering the tip of the northern panhandle of West Virginia, straight across from Pennsylvania, western Pennsylvania. I live in the Ohio River Valley, and I've spent most of my life here. We are still considered in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. So I do not live directly in the Appalachians, but in the foothills of lots of hollows, lots of tributaries, lots of hills in this part of the state. Uh, I have been doing a deep dive the past couple days with Elderflower in preparation for an event that I'm doing this Friday at Martha's Gallery in Wellsburg, West Virginia. December 6th, I think from like 4 to 8 p.m. I'll post details below, but um, I'll have my offering set up at an event there. And Elderflower just keeps popping up into my vision. It is highly useful right now in the way that, we're going inside, it's colder, we're exposed to a lot more bacteria, viruses, illnesses, and a lot of people are getting sick and it's sticking for a while. I just started a new job at a local hospital with a short term hospital with an ER, and I'm noticing a lot more pneumonias. I'm noticing a lot of flu, upper respiratory, lower respiratory type illnesses right now, bronchitis, pneumonia. Um, so Elderflower is definitely has been an ally for me for the past couple of years, but it has definitely been in my purse the last 3 weeks. And I don't know, I haven't gotten sick yet, but I am trying to prevent myself from getting sick. Um, I'm still dealing with some leftover inflammation. My voice even sounds extremely different than it ever used to. I'm dealing with that. COVID really did a number on the epithelium layer of the lining of my lungs, the back of my throat. My It impacts my breath, my nasal passage. I've got a lot of mucosal thickening left over from COVID the first time, and each time after I've gotten it, it just goes and hits me in my most weakest spots. So I really am trying to prevent myself from getting worse, because I am in the process of like some deep healing recently. So this brought me to research and go down a little bit more of a deeper path with elderflower. Because when I hear elderflower being talked about, or I hear elder being talked about, it's in reference to elderberries. That's what I see a lot of the medicines being made with. I actually have seen elderberry natural flavoring, which scares the fuck out of me because it's not elderberry at all. Being utilized in medications that are put on the shelves in our pharmacies, cough syrups especially. Anyway, so it's trending. Elderberry is trending, but I've been working with elderflower, and I really wanted to help highlight and explain how elderflower works so potently for me, how I feel it shows up more energetically than the berries, and how that is useful at the signs of the first signs of illnesses, because you're really working with energetic properties at that point. You're not really treating anything. You're moving something that you don't want to be in your system. You're moving it out in a way. So I did a little bit of deep diving into elderflower. Let me pull my notes back up, and I'm going to try to read through this, but also highlight some of the things that I found to be very interesting based on the stuff that I've been learning more recently. So here we go. So elderflower. Its Latin name is Sambucus nigra. we have in our area growing a Canadensis version, and Canadensis means Canada. It's known as the tree of medicine. And a sambuc, the origin of sambuc, is an instrument, hollow stems utilized in pipe making, blowing wind. Elder, ald, in I think Gaelic means fire. Hollow stems as smoking tools and tubes brought about diaphoretic properties in the body, moving fever, moving temperature, moving air and wind. And then Niagara means black, and that would be an association to the blackberries that grow in the late summer and early fall. Okay, so here's what I found out. Elderflower, the tree of medicine. It's a sacred plant long revered as a protector, healer, and transformer. Found growing at the liminal spaces, edges of forests, lakesides, and transitional areas, it embodies adaptability and flow, both in nature and in its actions on the human body. How elder grows, its habitat, shows us that it thrives in the in-between places, such as forest edges and water sides. These locations mirroring elder's spiritual role as a bridge between realms. And we'll get into that a little bit later. How it grows and its structure. Its flexible, hollow stems historically have been used for crafting pipes, tools, and wind instruments. These hollow forms reflect its energetic ability to channel movement, whether of air, lymph, muscle, or emotional energy. Moving on to their mythology and spiritual significance, elderflower's connection to ancient deities and their rituals span cultures and ages, cementing its role as a guardian and an ally. In the Celtic tradition, elder was revered as the medicine chest of the countryside. It was revered as the medicine of the people. It grew everywhere in disturbed areas, along waterways, and if you can think about even Ireland, all the lakes and the rivers, it's an island on water. How much elder was growing all over that island. So of probably the poor folk that but weren't poor in resource that lived with the land, medicine of the people. It was also associated with Brigid, the goddess of healing, poetry, and smithcraft, used in purification and renewal rituals. And Brigid is celebrated at Imbolc, which is the cross quarter between winter solstice and spring equinox. There's also like a little bit of interesting stories about Brigid's association with Mary and being one of Mary's midwives. I don't know if anybody else has heard that, but I thought that was really interesting. And so why would we utilize a medicine that is growing and harvestable in the springtime, late spring, early summer, in the middle of winter? Why would a goddess be ruling over that flower at this time? We're all stuck inside and we're getting sick and stores are starting to run low. We're huddled around fireplaces, tending to just what we need to outside. Yeah. In North's mythology, elderflower was sacred to Freya, goddess of love, beauty, fertility, and magic. Freya's connection to feminine magic and cycles aligns with elder's use for women's protection and fertility and healing. And the stories of Freya, of the Valkyries, they were bringing the souls lost in battle, bringing them up into the afterlife to Odin. And so not only were they the ushers of souls to the underworld or to the afterlife, They were protectors of the souls being ushered into the world, birthing through, women bringing souls into this world. Freya was a protector of women during childbirth. In Greek mythology, Persephone, dual queen of the underworld and springtime renewal, rules over Elderflower's blooming season, like I said, late spring to early summer, marking the transition from darkness to light. So this is the time when Persephone would be coming back from the underworld, having spent 6 months in the darkness. This flower just happens to be blooming in its most, for me, its most medicinal properties of that time of the year. Hecate, goddess of magic and liminal spaces, is linked to Elder's growth at transitional boundaries, symbolizing its role in spiritual protection and necromantic practices. So Hecate was a witch that talked to the dead. And so going in between worlds of being in this world and other worlds, going through those realms, talking to the ancestors, gaining information, foretelling the future, these fortune tellers, these oracles, these seers. Elderflower was useful in their spiritual protection of walking between these worlds and working in these dark spaces. It was like that light in the darkness. In Slavic folklore, sacred to Mokosh, goddess of fertility, earth, and women's work, elders supported women's health, fertility, and protection. I don't know, are you noticing, who Elderflower is protecting? It's a very feminine, light, ephemeral medicine and spirit. Very protective of the feminine, very protective over women. And what a way to have that need met and being highlighted, especially at this time in our American culture, Moving on to the Christian traditions. This I'm not as familiar. Not as familiar with the Bible and the teachings of the Bible, but I'm learning. Elder is associated with Mary, and Mary I have a deep connection with. But I see Mary in Mother Earth and Mother Earth and Mary. They are not apart for me. So I worship the earth. I worship Mary. So Elder, being associated with Mary, symbolizing purity and protection, was utilized to bless homes. Conversely, being linked to Judas, reflecting in its dual nature of life and death, decay and renewal. I think the story of Judas is he wasn't somebody that could be trusted, a trickster. I probably shouldn't say too much because I don't know, but that was kind of like my understanding. Elderflower was also utilized in midsummer at Midsummer's Eve. Standing under an elder tree was believed to bring good luck at that time as a reflection of its transformative energy and connection to light. The power of the sun. So getting into a little bit of Elderflower's medicinal actions, and this is just specific to Elderflower. Most of this is specific to Elderflower, not elderberry, but I just wanted to make that clarification. Elderflower's medicinal properties are deeply tied to its ecological and spiritual symbolism of adaptability and transformation. But also, let's really think about these actions as relatable to the gods and the goddesses and the deities and what they ruled over and what rituals and ceremonies were being held to honor these these gods and goddesses and deities, and the truths and the stories that they tell. Also brings me to think about a mechanism of action and how I could utilize elder in a lot of ways when dealing with the health and the wellness of the people that I work with. But specifically, like I said, we're talking about elderflower. It's sudorific action. Sudorific is a little bit different from diaphoretic. Sudorific is the body sensing the perception of water droplets as sweat on the skin. But it helps to promote sweating, helping the body regulate temperature and detoxify. It increases blood flow to the skin, relieving muscle tension and encouraging lymph flow, clearing stagnation, whether physical toxins or emotional anger and stress. And it does this in its way to help support other detoxification portals and open up channels like through the kidneys and through the liver. This sudorific action is helping offset the work on our detox pathways, on our organs. So clearing the liver can also clear a lot of anger and a lot of stress. We hold a lot of stress and anger in the liver. For respiratory support, these actions help to reduce congestion, inflammation, and mucosal thickening in the lungs. So the fire of the sun, bringing in the fire of the sun, opening up the wind channels, astringing, letting go of excess fluid that doesn't need to be there, bringing heat to those areas can really open up the lungs, open up the sinuses, the upper airways, the throat, helping us to bring breath and oxygenation into our body and into our tissues. How then we could bring in deeper breath and deeper energy and life into our systems if our channels are more open. I hope that makes sense. It has energetic and emotional healing use. It's cooling and lightening actions. Elderflower disperses heat and stagnation, bringing clarity and balance. Like I said, opening up those pathways and those channels. Again, symbolically connected to the sun. It embodies warmth and renewal. It embodies warmth and renewal, encouraging transformation in both body and spirit. Yeah, it's like, elderflower has just always felt so potent to me. It works so quickly and it shows up the same in everybody. I've seen it used in groups, lots of groups of people, through my ceremonial work and through some of my holiday pop-ups. I give it to large groups of people, or I offer it to large groups of people in cocktails or in other teas that I'm working with, just to help keep us gathering together safely, and that we come out of like ceremonies and gatherings feeling better, connected, happy and joyous because we've actually been showing up socially. So yeah, and it's interesting. I don't know if that meant anything, but like some of the pop-ups and the ceremonies where most of the people have consumed elder have been some of the most potent and fire ones that I've done over the past couple years. So that, looking back and reflecting, that's pretty interesting. Okay, so on to immune support. It hastens illness recovery and prevents severe symptoms when taken early. It helps the body respond to illnesses with resilience, maintaining its ability to strengthen naturally while mitigating extreme responses. So to me, that means we don't want to take away the body's ability to fight infection. That's very important. Having those microdoses of infections come through allows our bodies to build up resiliency to these bacteria, viruses, to these invaders. But what elderflower does, it's almost like your body can still recognize these invaders. But elderflower is quickly mitigating their movement through the body through a detoxification pathway, through opening up channels, opening up the skin and releasing toxins. So it's not like our bodies are not being exposed to these things. It's just elderflower helps to mitigate, extreme responses. And for those of us that have been affected by COVID in chronic ways, that is extremely useful and beneficial for folks like us who are trying to maintain our health, and to still heal, Okay, so practical uses of elderflower. Preventatively, taken before exposure to crowds or during high-risk seasons to ward off illnesses. Pre-game to holiday events to social gatherings through the fall, late fall and winter months. This you could take, I'll take, it's always in my purse at this time of year. I will take like a 2 ml dose before I go anywhere that I know I'm going to be gathering in large spaces. And then it's in my purse for anytime I'm around somebody that's sick. I had a person that I hadn't seen in a long time come and give me a hug the other day, and then as cheek to cheek. And then as soon as they released, they said, "Oh, I have strep throat." It's like, what the fuck? Like, okay. Yeah, okay. I'm like, I got elderflower. So I took some elderflower. Being around a lot of people that are sick right now, especially at work, I'm taking elderflower every day during my shift. But it also can be utilized at the first sign of any kind of illness or something upper respiratory that we feel going on: scratchy throat, headaches, sinus drainage or stuffiness, fatigue, maybe a little bit of a harder time breathing, dry, hacky cough. Any of those symptoms, you can start taking 3 to 4 mLs of elderflower every 3 to 4 hours until the symptoms subside. It's really going to show up for you amazingly there. So that's what I mean by, its ability to strengthen naturally while mitigating extreme responses. It can also be utilized in ritual and ceremony, useful in cleansing and protective rituals to release physical toxins or emotional toxins, emotional burdens, looking for help and release or protection. We can incorporate elder into midsummer or solstice ceremonies and rituals for abundance and renewal. We can also, which is like my favorite use of elderflower, its usefulness in opening channels, increasing the wind and the breath into the lungs, utilized right before meditation, journeying, or embodiment practices, or journaling, or going into the woods and walking, being out in the elements. Its energetic and spiritual properties as a protector and a transformer, bridging the spiritual and physical realms, offering support in times of transition, carrying that light through the dark of Persephone. Bringer of balance, symbolizing light in the darkness, connecting us to the cyclical nature of life, death, and renewal. And what a time to be talking about elderflower when, the earth has put all of her kin to bed to sleep. The darkness, it's getting darker and darker. This time of putting things to death to compost until it's time to renew and to regrow in the spring. It's adaptability and flow, encouraging movement and resilience, helping us to weather storms physically, emotionally, and spiritually. That's ability to weather, to stay adaptable and to stay flexible in storms and nature. And also want to highlight and talk about a little bit, this mutually beneficial symbiotic relationship that elder has with us, but also has with the area in which that it grows and its habitat that it lives in. It supports pollinators, birds, butterflies, and mammals, showcasing its role as a giver and a sustainer of life. And I have to be very mindful when I'm harvesting elderflower in the summertime because this is a huge food source for a lot of pollinators. And the berries, definitely for the birds and mammals later on in the late summer and early fall. So thinking about, I'm taking their food and their medicine. So I'm very careful as to when I am foraging and how much I'm foraging and where I'm foraging with elder. Um, Seeing elder grow, it's like these small, woody, lengthy, skinny branches growing out from lakesides where there's just a little bit of a bank, and they're growing like out, cascading over the water. And in the late spring and early summer, the ends of these very flexible reeds, these very flexible branches, is a terminal flower that looks like an umbrella with these green, almost like feather like looking leaves spraying out from the sides. And it's like it's like an umbrella flower head, and it's about, but the size of my hand, covered in clusters of white flowers with little yellow centers, full of pollen, 5 petals, I think 5 little sepals. Um, and if you walk up to it and you shake it, you can see the pollen dusting off onto down into the air and floating through the air. And if you're not careful, if you smell these flowers, the pollen will just like get up in your nasal cavities and like make you sneeze. But the scent of elderflower is so alluring to me. It's so ephemeral. It's so ephemeral that it's hard to capture that essence to be able to describe it. It's like you have to smell it in person. It's so light, but it's so I don't know. It just does something to you. Um yeah, so finally brings me to the end of my notes. Elderflower invites us to align with the rhythms of nature, reminding us of the beauty and adaptability and transformation. It walks with us through the thresholds of life, offering protection, healing, and clarity. By embracing elderflower's medicine, we are honoring its history, its spiritual wisdom, and its capacity to bridge the earthly and the divine. And I would like to also add this connection to the feminine, this connection through elder, through the earth, and these gods and goddesses and deities and mythology and cosmology stories. What are they telling us about elder? What are they telling us about how we can utilize and work with its medicine, not just physically, but energetically and emotionally and spiritually and ritually and ceremonially, and offering us protections in some of the work that is women's work to do, and offering us protection and guidance and healing over fertility, empowering women, opening us up to our channels, access to life force energy that is going to provide us with the ability to see the unseen, tell our fortunes, predict our futures, help us in our growth and our healing. I don't know. I am looking at elder in a whole new way today in the past couple days. I knew it was really useful for knocking out illness, but I had no idea that its medicine went as deep as it does. And I'm sure there's way more that I've not uncovered yet. That was just a rabbit hole down around elderflower's sodorific properties. So, like, there's so much more. Old world uses, rheumatism, neuralgia and sciatica. Wow, for me, with the pain that I've currently been under with a lot of things that are going on in my body, those three things I haven't even touched upon, their specific constituents and uses, chemical actions. So yeah, right. Whatever. Elder is magic. Elder is magic. And I think, like, we could all run with a little bit more magic in our lives. I think we could all utilize a little bit more magic in our lives, and what a beautiful plant, to help guide us there and to show us how, we can show up better for ourselves. Okay, so thanks for listening. Elderflower will be available with me this Friday, I think from 4 to 8 p.m. at Martha's Gallery in Wellsburg, West Virginia, located right alongside the Ohio River. I'll be set up with my dear friend Michelle Mitchell. She's a wonderfully talented artist and massage therapist in our area. She is going to be highlighting a lot of her paintings, and I don't know if you are familiar, but she did this, and she's still working on it, this series of mushroom people. She'll have some of that there. And then I think next Friday, our friend Carrie Perani of Iridescent Jewelry will be highlighting her unique, very unique, beautiful, handcrafted pieces of jewelry for sale for you or your loved one. Along with all of my other stuff, along with all of my other tinctures and smoke blends and oxymals. But I hope you can make it. If you have any questions about elderflower, or if anything that I said really spoke to you, I would love to hear what kind of threads that pulled, and I don't know, just what this brought up for you. Thanks for listening. Whew.